Marriage between a simple man and a simple woman is not just marriage between a simple man and a simple woman. It is a marriage of two views of the cosmos. Hi, this is Michael Shevack. Welcome to God Search. It is the year 2026 by the Roman Christian dating system that's become the common universal global dating system for everyone in the entire world, which is an amazing feat of a religion. All right, it was done through conquest. There's a lot of colonial, complaints about it, but nonetheless, it did create the beginning of a universal culture for the entire planet and give credit where credit is due. I want to continue the discussion that we've been having for the second season of God Search, and thank you so much for being here, on the complexity of our physical bodies. We talked about an inner body and an outer body, one that's I'm calling a light body or a subtle body, and the other a material or elemental body. And last time we talked about the complexity, the beginning of the complexity of marriage, where each partner has two genitals. This, which is a throat, which projects or ejaculates seminal ideas in the male and receives seminal ideas and gestates its own egg out of which new ideas emerge. This is a genital. It's dealing with a metaphysic, okay, of thought. And of course, we had the lower stuff, which is near our legs and our butts, and it's kind of more animal, and it deals with conception, meaning the creation of our little animal bodies. This is a very real thing. And I talked about the difficulties that marriages have in coordinating these two genitals. This one in particular is involved in creating concepts. And one of those most difficult concepts is money because we become very dependent on it. And the other concepts below have to do with children. And these are two facets of economics. One, which is the primary economics, which is children, and the other, which is a secondary economics, which is kind of currency based or coin based or agreement based or bartering based. They're different economic viewpoints, one more dense, the other more rarefied, but they come from different kind of eyes. It's life seen through different eyes, and there are different laws of power and different laws by which these operate. And in marriages, as we discussed, things can get very confusing because these two power bases have to operate to this and coordinate and align themselves together in one couple. And it's not just this, by the way. This is responsible for many of the laws and the governing that takes place in religious government or whether it's secular government. It's very much a creative mental structure and projection. Whereas down below, we get real bodies with real babies that scream and want milk. So we'll talk about this more because this is a fundamental difficulty, not just in marriage and families, but by extension, it is clearly the problem in the entire world. Our metaphysical creations, our ideas, when they are not in harmony with what's lower, create ecological problems that undermine the health and well-being of our children. But if we only feel like we are obligated to raise children and that's all we're here for, then our visionary possibilities of human beings with our enormously supernatural consciousness will never be fulfilled. But, from the bottom up, we begin with real living human beings first before we deal with the thoughts of real living human beings. That's how it works in an authentic God search. If you've been on a God search or you're going to enter into it, you will notice that although you may begin with an envisionary kind of thinking process on your spiritual development, eventually it boils down to your physical body. And it will have to root itself in actual organic and cellular changes. All right. Now, in these days, there's a lot of new age stuff going around because we're trying to reintegrate into Western thinking, which is very much philosophical, scientific, and in your head, things that are related to what is nature or the material or elemental. And we've been using, many people have been using the Hindu derived chakra system, where there are energy foci in your bottom, or where your tuchus is, your anus, and your genitals. That's number two. And then three, your stomach or your solar plexus. And then there's your heart, which is the fourth chakra, and the throat, which is your fifth chakra. And then there's the sixth, and then at the top of your head shoots out. It's the seventh, all of which forms an entire embodied human being. And that bridge has turned out to be a metaphysical, conceptual bridge that has helped a lot of people come into their bodies more and bring their spirituality more organic. It's been a useful bridge. It is somewhat inadequate for reasons that I can discuss because we have real bodies. We don't walk around in chakra bodies. And we ultimately have to translate it into real physical things like labor, like sexual intercourse, like earning money, meaning going into the fields and harvesting and then trading. These are things that have to become physical and organic. But the chakra system has become very valuable to many people. And these days, what you're seeing is a kind of mergence of Western and Eastern in order to bring together a more unified God search, a God search that isn't just in your head or in your faith, meaning believe it, even if you can't know it's true, and even if it may actually be false, believe it anyway. That kind of religionism, and bring it down to the actual physicality of your real, they're all very, very real physical body. Yeah, it may just be a virtual reality simulation, but it is a virtual reality simulation by a mind that's much larger than ours and causes us great pain and suffering if we don't pay attention to it, which you might call a law. But nonetheless, this chakra system has been very intriguing to many people, and there is a kind of reality to it. It's very ancient. Many religions had it. The Greek religion has it in its caduceus, where the snake crosses the spine of the vertical at certain key places. It exists in Jewish mysticism. It is an aspect of Christology, if you ever have taken a look at some of the nuances of Christology or the symbol structures of the cross. All of these things are very fascinating. I want to tell you a story. There was once this a very good friend of mine at a very old age was shocked to find out that her husband was not particularly faithful. And it was a terrible disaster. And she broke the marriage up after 35 years. There was no way it could be redeemed. The gentleman was a little egregious and went off and started life completely on her own, which and not particularly wealthy at all. I mean, you're talking about starting from scratch in your 60s. Just imagine it. Anyway, many, many, many years went by, and I got a telephone call, and the woman began to talk to me about how she was suddenly awakening her amorousness, her love, her desire for love, her desire for sexual intimacy was waking up in her. So I said to her, smug rabbi that I am, I said, have you noticed the color orange surfacing in your life? And there was dead silence on the phone. And she said, well, yes, I just bought a painting for the living room, which is all orange. I just bought 4 bolts of orange material. I am craving orange in my decor and my clothing. How do you know that? I knew because this woman was, as I said before, merging some of the combinations of spiritualities from Judaism and Christianity, which you pick up from everyday common culture, and merging it with some of the yogic teachings. And I knew that fusion was how she was organizing her psyche. And I knew that the second chakra was aligned to the color orange. So that's a kind of anecdotal experience that you will have in your God search that will let you know that your knowledge is not just floating up there, that it actually has a reality. Granted, it's an anecdote, but a shared anecdote between yourself and someone else is the beginning of the scientific method to which we would add in another anecdote and another anecdote and another anecdote. Before you have it, multiple observations are that of the same thing take place. And this is the development of scientific law. Then that can be tested. We can generalize it as a general principle and teach it as a scientific, quote unquote, fact. So it's very important on your God search not to discount such curious little anecdotes because they are signs, truly signs, that God, the universe, life, whatever you want to use it, it's all a matter of scale, is actually speaking to you and you're being sent on the correct path. For me, it was clearly, I took it as a sign that my studies of this had reached a point that it had a reality to it. And it was a great gift to me. So I want to share in the spiritual dynamism of a human being, and then you add to it the spiritual dynamism of another human being and then they come together as a partner and then they bring new human beings into life. This is the fundamental biological relationship behind covenant in the traditional Hebrew sense, which became the traditional Christian and Muslim and global humanist um, versions of that. Is that we are breeding knowledge of the unity of all existence. We are breeding knowledge of human beings to be masters over our scale of nature here on the earth and beyond, perhaps other planets. And as we do that, we are trying to do it in a way that is harmonious, aligned in itself, and coordinated on a God search, which is a continual revelation, as we said in podcast one, 48, 49. God, time flies, podcasts ago. Unity, truth, and the correct use of our creativity, the creator through us is, and those are the three components that are involved in the creation of good or the experience called God. So let me give you a little bit of a map that has proven useful. It's been around for about 1,000 years. It's very middle age, but it has coordinated knowledge for many, many, many centuries before it. So it draws on Eastern. The chakra system it has an alignment to many things. If we start from the bottom, let's you will have um, your butt, and that butt is corresponding to a planet, all right? And pun intended, Uranus. Then you have your genitals, which is corresponding to another planet, which happens to be an agricultural god in Roman mythology called Saturn. And it's interesting that it's an agricultural god that it is because the genitals are agricultural. They make produce, new human beings. We are greatly a produce that is part of the planet. We are that. No different than a chicken or a piece of steak, and we'll talk about the morality of that at another time. Okay. Then you have your third or your solar plexus. Notice it's the sun and it's in your stomach. And we now know that many neural ganglions, so many neural ganglions exist around the stomach and exist in the brain at the same time, more than any place else. And it's not happenstance. Because on the lower level, the stomach is like a body's mind. As we discussed, you ruminate, meaning you churn over, you digest forms, which are ideas of God in life. You digest them, you break them apart, you assimilate them, you reassimilate, you create new compounds or new forms or new ideas. So thinking process is definitely a kind of sublimation. It rises out of the basic organics of digestion, where you can take in a thought called food, or you take in metaphysically a thought called an idea. They're very, very harmonious. So you have Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter. You have your heart, which is Mars. Okay. And that's a heart is a center for power, very, very important power called love. Then you have your throat chakra, which is blue. It's associated with blue. And then you have your third eye, which have blue indigo, which is a kind of bluish purple. And above you have violet, all of which produces white. These are, of course, the colors, the seven colors of the rainbow, and that constitute the white. So above this, one could say you have the sun. So you have Earth, Venus, Mercury, and the sun. So you have Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, your stomach, okay? Mars, your heart, your throat is Earth. That's where we do our ideas. And we have Venus, Mercury, and then the sun, which is the great white light. To ancient people, it was clear that our bodies, which are the only near vertical bodies of any animal on the planet, near perpendicular, is an embodiment of the planetary system. The other planets were not particularly known and embodied, but they do play a place. This is ancient knowledge and it can be updated. And that our bodies represented physicalizations, if not individualizations, of our particular solar system. It's a very curious idea. Now, at the same time, it's very interesting. Starting from the bottom up, you have red, you have yellow, which is the second. No, so yeah, you have red, you have the orange, which is the second, third, which is yellow, you have green, which is the heart, you have blue, you have indigo, you have violet, and then you have white. And of course, that's how I knew the person was maybe playing with orange, because she was awakening down below after a loveless marriage. At the same time, you have the tonic scale of our usual Western music. You have down below Do. The second chakra is Re. You have Mi, which is the third. Fa, which is the fourth, or your heart. That's Mars. That's green. You have the blue Re, Mi, Ro, Do, Re, Mi, Fa. All right, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So, La would be blue indigo, blue, Fa, wait, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So, La, or Venus, T, Mercury, Do. Sorry about that. I'm only human. So you see that you have an octave of light, an octave of sound that makes music. You have a planetary coordination of a planetary octave at the same time. And now what's really fascinating is if you know the musical scale, you go C, D, E, or Do, Re, Mi, and then you have red, yellow, red, orange, yellow. Okay. Do, Re, Mi, red, orange, yellow. And then after that, you have something which is very different. You go from E to F, which is a whole step. There are no half steps between E and F, right? Or do, re, mi, fa. There's no half step between mi and fa. And there's no half step in the colors because red, orange, and yellow are clearly related, right? And then there's green that separates these things. So do, re, mi, and red, orange, yellow, they're related and they're both followed by a tone and a sound which separates them. It's very interesting. And then after the separation with green and fa, what happens is you get another packet of colors and sounds that are related, which have half steps. You have blue, indigo, and violet, which are related in the blue scale, right? And do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. And then you have another whole step where Mercury goes into the sun and the tone T goes back into another do, and that is the sun again. Now, this coordination is rather uncanny. It's been noticed by many, many people, and it's been coordinated. As this process takes place through life, and I'm sorry I was a little clumsy, but this can be all drawn out. Maybe I should have drawn it out. I got to learn how to do this on Zoom. What you're going to notice is that the human body, even though we're using chakras as a kind of light bridge to the actual material and elemental body, you're going to see that the human body is is related to the phenomenon of sound and the phenomenon of light. And of course, it's related to many other things, which back then the ancients did not know to the same way we did. And so they didn't include it in their cosmology. The point that I'm making here is that when you get married, you are not simply coordinating the two genitals, which is do re, right, and red orange, and the planet um, uh, Saturn. And you're coordinating the Earth, or you're coordinating the sounds and the colors associated blue with it, um, fa and do, re, mi, fa. So you're coordinating the sounds with it. And the human being, when you are that, is an individual expression of the phenomena of life. We are created out of the fabric of it. And now when we mate, it is an interplay of color and sound and creativity in our organic systems that is beyond the ordinary person to fully appreciate in the context of saying, I do, I do. That weaving of the mystery, the impenetrable mystery of a relationship between man and woman, which brings into existence a new musical composition, a new painting of colors that are mixed a certain way. And all the colors and all the sounds mix in ways that no one could ever possibly understand, with different characters to brushstrokes and different characters to the music. When you realize that you, as a couple, are two compositions that combine into a composition that is greater than you, meaning each of you is composed of the components of the same larger universal structure. But how you take these components and how you bring them together and how you combine them and produce new compositions and add them to the world is the mystery that's in marriage. And needless to say, when you have two authors who are trying to compose together, Ira and his brother Gershwin, um, you know, Oscar Hammerstein and Richard Rodgers, Leonard Bernstein and Stephen Sondheim, you're going to get some fracas along the way. The important thing in a cosmic marriage, because that's what marriages are when they're truly covenantal, cosmic marriages meaning are the embodiment of God's creation as you, with God's creation as another. And the complexities are part of the mystery of life. Practically speaking, on your God search, the most important thing here between having multiple genitals and multiple bodies that are derived from planetary and different forces of sound and light is to develop the virtue of patience. It's not easy. It's not easy to coordinate all these things, especially when each of us is living with the kind of illusion or delusion or whatever you want to call it, or a temporary fact that we seem to be a single individual. So we have these multiple facets in us, and yet we're a single individual that says, I do. And the disparity between the multiplicity of who we are and the singularity of who we are causes these difficulties on a God search, if you're awake. If not, you'll just handle it practically. And there are tools that can help people learn how to argue less. And tools, cognitive therapy is a really good thing if you're married and having some difficulty. Check it out. And you can handle these things practically. But for those people who are on an active conscious God search, it's good to know that all of these things that are happening, you're not disjunct from the mystery of creation. When you're in the throes of marriage and you're figuring out how to buy this or that and how to spend this and how to have time for yourselves apart from the kids and whether you should have kids or you shouldn't have kids, these are options that exist today. It's important to realize that the mystery of life and the presence of God and the presence of all existence and creation is not apart from you. It is there in you. It's there in a sense as you. Meaning God creates the creation through you who are a part of creation and indeed a conscious, creative, free-willed aspect of creation. And when you come together with another to create more of that, it's the mystery of mysteries, which is generations of human beings growing and evolving and drawing closer to greater truth and greater unity with greater imaginative use and correct use of creativity. So you can see why the ecological issues on the planet and the relationships of men and women are completely one and the same thing. We will talk about other variants of marriages at another time. They are also part of the mystery. Don't be prejudicial. They are also part of the mystery, and they are important parts of the mystery. But just for now, take in the fact that in your ordinary life, you are truly a miraculous creation by God and a miraculous creation together, creating more miraculous creations. And if you're not inspired, I don't know how to inspire you. I mean, I just might as well just get another job. I mean, this is an incredibly inspiring notion. And take it in and develop some patience as you're working out these details. Develop some patience because you do need it. And you need a certain amount of humility also, which is part of the patience. Not easy. I'm not good at it, by the way. Not good at it at all. So, just hang in there. Okay. Marriages can be tough, but they are cosmic in import. And the more you bring these harmonious forces of light and sound and the planetary motions in place, which of course include the astrological issues, because when you're dealing with different planets, you're dealing with the astrology that is part of who you are, into a single relationship. You are bringing together all the cosmos upon the earth. And if you're correctly oriented to using it for peace and goodness for everyone, which is covenantal, you are making an amazing contribution to all humankind and the entire planet simply by being yourselves. So consider this a New Year's message in 2026. 2026. May the light and the sound, the music and the colors combine within your lives to create a harmony between you and a magnificent picture of the possibilities of all human potential. And may you share it with your children and your children's children and your neighbors and your community and your nation and the entire world. Picture it as my New Year's card to you. This is Michael Shevack. Go to yourgodsearch.com, please, and let's continue this conversation. And I'll see you next Wednesday, 5:45 a.m., roughly Eastern Standard Time. Keep going, all right? Life is beautiful, and your God search is astonishing if you keep plugging at it. Uncover God, discover God, and recover from an unspiritualized religion that has lost your attention because they've lost their own mystery, which they need to rediscover. God bless. Bye-bye.